Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nobody, and I know nothing. I've had a recent spur because I was introduced to something very interesting. The spur I've been on is a little more interest into Mormonism, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the LDS Church. And what brought about this a bit more interest in Mormonism, or of the Church of Latter-day Saints is the story of Mormon Bigfoot, where Bigfoot is Cain. I'll get into that a little bit later. First, what I want to do is I'm going to go through and give a brief history of the Church of Latter-day Saints. It's going to be from two different parts. One is a bit more in-depth, more particularly on Joseph Smith, who is the founder of the Church of Latter-day Saints, the gentleman who found the golden tablets that is the additional book into the Christian New Testament. And then the other part that I'll go through is just the general overview and history of the church. The reason why I'm doing this is because this is a very silly cult full of very kind and polite and sweet people who have no idea they're heretics. And I find it funny because they're such lovely people, but they're going to hell. You feel kind of bad for them because they're so close. They're so close, but they miss the point where the fact where there's no prophet after Jesus. It's so silly. Anyways, what I'll be reading from for the brief overview and history of Mormons. I'll just call them Mormons because it's easier, less words. One is from the newsroom of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, their actual website, and another one is mrm.org, which is Mormonism Research Ministry. Mormonism Research Ministry. And it's a Mormon website. So I'll be using their information to go over a brief overview before I jump into Mormon Bigfoot. So we'll just jump right in. And it starts. This is considered an additional resource titled History of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Temple. One of the most influential events in religious history occurred during the spring of 1820, when two heavenly beings appeared to a young boy named Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith was born on December 23, 1805 in Sharon, Vermont, in the northeastern United States. He later moved with his family to the rural community of Palmyra, New York, or Palmyra, pardon me if I've mispronounced it, wherein a religious revival occurred in the early 19th century. Confused by the conflicting claims of the various faiths, Joseph went to the Bible for guidance and found the Council of James, chapter 1, verse 5, to ask God for himself. All right. Now I need to look this up. James 1:5. What is James 1:5? If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God that giveth all to men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. Verse 6. But let him ask in faith, not wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea driven by the wind and tossed. I'm not sure what. We'll just read it from the NIV, because I'm not quite sure which particular edition of the Bible that was from. So, from the NIV, James chapter 1, verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding faults, and it will be given to you. Well, there you go. That's why he went to James chapter 1, verse 5. What a faithful man to ask God for wisdom. Resuming to the Additional resource. In a wooden grove near the family farm, Joseph knelt to pray. There in that secluded place, in the most dramatic revelation since biblical times, God and his Son, Jesus Christ, appeared to the boy and gave him instructions. He was commanded to join none of the existing churches and was told that God would restore to earth the church originally organized by Jesus Christ with all of its truths and priesthood authority. 10 years later, after a series of revelations and dramatic visitations to Joseph and others, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was officially organized on April 6, 1830, in Fayette, New York. The Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ. In September of 1823, Joseph experienced a visitation from an ancient prophet, a man who had lived and died in the Western Hemisphere centuries earlier. This resurrected man, whose name was Moroni or Moroni, however it's pronounced, directed Joseph to a hill near Palmyra, where he showed him a religious history of an ancient American civilization engraved on metal plates and buried in the ground. 4 years later, Joseph was permitted to take the record and translate it. The Book of Mormon, named for one of the ancient American prophets who had compiled it, was first published in 1830. The Book of Mormon contains religious writings of civilizations in ancient America between about 2200 BC and 421 AD. It includes an eyewitness account of the ministry of Jesus Christ on the American continent following his resurrection in Jerusalem. Okay. That's fascinating. All right, whatever.
The Jews were in America! They were corrupting the Native Americans. That's why they were so bloodthirsty.
Oh, what ridiculousness. All right, resuming. Restoration of priesthood authority. Apostles and prophets in all ages have had authority from God to act in his name. The original 12 apostles received this priesthood authority under the hands of Jesus Christ himself. But with their passing, the authority of the apostleship disappeared from the earth. An essential component of the restoration, therefore, was the reestablishment of this priesthood authority in 1829. Because, the fact that it went away clearly didn't have a particular reason, right? In May of that year, a resurrected being who identified himself as John the Baptist. My man got to meet John the Baptist, resurrected just for him. God, I love their history. John the Baptist appeared to Joseph Smith and his associate Oliver Crowdery, laid his hands on their heads, and gave them the Aaronic priesthood, Aaronic, like Aaron, Aaronic, Aaronic priesthood, with the authority to baptize and perform other ordinances. I should call in ordinances. This is awful. Shortly thereafter, 3 of the original apostles, Peter, James, and John, appeared to Joseph and Oliver and gave them the authority of the apostleship into Melchizedek, or higher priesthood. My man summoned Melchizedek. Are you kidding me? All right. He got to meet so many of the bigwig names of Christianity that, oh man, to have been Joseph Smith and to have met these godsends of people, the founders, the first apostles, the 12 direct disciples of Jesus Christ, the living Son of God. And he got to meet them and God and Jesus. And randomly Melchizedek. Not sure why he met Melchizedek. Melchizedek is he's more influential, well, not influential among the Jews, but he's a Jewish figure, not necessarily a Christian figure. But all right, go off, Joseph. You got to meet Melchizedek. Sorry. Resuming. With the restoration of priesthood authority, Joseph organized the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with 6 initial members. Because Jesus had 12 disciples and one of them betrayed him, so he's got to play careful and just have 6 at the moment. Growth and opposition. Oh, opposition, I wonder why. Like the ancient church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a missionary church. In the mid-19th century, converts were encouraged to gather with the saints in America. Swelling ranks of immigrants from Europe and the eastern United States soon provided fuel for growing opposition as well. To escape the escalating turmoil, church headquarters moved from New York to Ohio, then to Missouri, and later to Illinois. Moved. They were kicked out. But all right. In 1839, the Latter-day Saints established the community of Nauvoo, Illinois, on a tract of inhospitable swampland bordering the Mississippi River. Under the leadership of Joseph Smith, they drained the swamps and began erecting a community of beautiful homes, prosperous farms, and businesses. They also built a temple. By 1844, Nauvoo rivaled Chicago in population. Is that true? Surely that's not. Oh, that's fascinating if that's true. Let's see. 1844 population of Nauvoo, Illinois in 1844 versus population of Chicago, Illinois in 1844. I am not taking this from a Mormon website. I'm going to go I'd sooner trust Wikipedia than the Mormons on this. 500 members at its peak in 1840, around 500 in 1844. Okay, well that's not impressive, but it's 1844, so I'm guessing that was impressive for back then. Okay, I'll have to double check that because this says, according to the Illinois government website, Chicago had approximately 8,000 people in it in 1844. Okay. All right, let's how do you spell it again? Nauvoo. Nauvoo. 12,000. I'll be darned. They beat Chicago by 4,000 people. Wow. All right. Not sure what Wikipedia was telling me at first, but all right. The Illinois government has declared that, indeed, Nauvoo had more people in it than Chicago. That's impressive. Resuming. But mounting suspicion and anxiety within neighboring communities fed an atmosphere of extreme agitation and distrust. Newspapers in nearby towns began to call for the Latter-day Saints' extermination. Like almost every state they lived in leading up to this point. At the height of this turmoil, Joseph Smith and his brother, Hiram, were shot to death by an armed mob in nearby Carthage, Illinois. All right. Brigham Young and the Westward Trek. Mobs attacked Latter-day Saint settlements in the region, burning crops, destroying homes, and threatening to exterminate the people. Church leaders knew a move was once again at hand. This one would be one of the most visionary and prodigious? I'm gonna go with prodigious journeys in American history. As the senior of the 12 apostles, there's 12 now. They don't state whether that happens pre or post the death of Joseph Smith. Regardless, Brigham Young succeeded Joseph Smith as the leader of the church. In February of 1846, he led the Latter-day Saints across the frozen Mississippi River into unsettled Iowa territory. They struggled across Iowa, eventually establishing a settlement called Winter Quarters near modern-day Omaha, Nebraska. There, during the winter and early spring of 1846 to 1847, the Latter-day Saints prepared for the historic trek to the remote valley of the Great Salt Lake, 1,000 miles to the west. Brigham Young's advance party led the way, arriving in the Salt Lake Valley on June 22nd, 1847. Really, really shocking sometimes to read these historical accounts and realize how long it took to get literally anywhere in the early days. Like, I imagine, like, it's a pilgrimage. We got covered wagons, we got horses, we got cattle, we got mules and donkeys, and we got people walking on foot, and everyone's dying of dysentery. But it's neat to think about it because there's no roads. They either had to, well, granted, that area is pretty much flatland. There's not really woods to go through. But getting out of Illinois at that time, they probably had to find ways of getting out of the wooded areas with all these wagons and like animals and people. Like, good night. 6 months to go from Omaha, Nebraska to Salt Lake Valley. 6 months, basically. All right. During the next 22 years, an estimated 68,000 Latter-day Saints filtered into this Great Basin refuge. Some crossed in wagons, but between 1856 and 1860, 10 companies of nearly 3,000 men, women, and children walked to the valley of the Great Salt Lake pulling hand carts. Under the direction of Brigham Young, the pioneers established more than 600 communities from southern Alberta to Mexico, or Mexico, whatever you prefer. An impressive stretch. Into the modern era. When Utah was granted statehood on January 4th, 1896, church membership totaled 250,000, the majority in Utah. When church membership reached 1 million in 1947, 100 years after the desperate exodus from Nauvoo, it was still largely North American. After 1947, however, the Utah proportion of membership began to shrink almost as rapidly as worldwide growth accelerated. Currently, less than 14% of all church members reside inside Utah, and fewer than 45% of church members live in the U.S. At the end of 2015, the worldwide membership of the church stood at 15.6 million members. A rather impressive number. I mean, not in the grand scheme of, like, total, like, human population, but, I mean, 15.6 million people, at least 60% of which tithe. It's like, there's a reason why their churches look so nice, man. It's the reason why Catholic churches look so nice. You have enough people that tithe. You're able to do a lot of things with that money. Like paying 12 people who claim to be apostles. Probably an exorbitant amount of money. Let's find out, shall we? What are the 12 Mormon apostles paid? Whoa, those are some seriously old men. Except for one. He looks to be in his 50s. He's pretty young. But this guy looks like he's like almost 90. He's not doing too hot. I don't know who that is. Let's see. Okay. It seems like they what? It says the 12 apostles report to earn basically $89K a year, and that was 2,000 to the first week of December. It says this information was published in 2017. Let's see. Note that the base living allowance for all Mormon general authorities was being raised from 116K to 120K. Yeah, I'm not sure who that applies to, but they explicitly state 89K for the apostles, which is shockingly low given their level of authority. they have within the church. So yeah, that's your brief overview history of Mormons. Now to the juicy part. More in-depth detail on Joseph Smith, the founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it's always fun to point this out because they claim Joseph Smith did an awful lot of running with his golden book that was 6 inches wide by 8 inches long by 6 inches thick, made of gold, which, if you do the math, is just over 200 pounds, which is insane. Oh, it's so funny because he said that because no one had really, there's no way any of these people had ever gotten their hands on any significantly large chunk of gold to know just how unbelievably dense gold is and how heavy it is in a very small volume. Phenomenal. So we're going to read now, how heavy were those gold plates? And this is a long, well, not long, but it's a fairly long article of Mormons desperately trying to cope with the fact that this is complete and utter bullcrap. Oh, you gotta love it. All right, so here we go. How heavy were those gold plates? Paramount in the story of the Latter-day Saints is the account given by Joseph Smith of a visitation he received from the angel Moroni on September 21st, 1823. He stated that after he retired to his bed, his room became filled with light. At his bedside stood an angel who called Smith by name and told him that God had work for the young boy to do. Smith claimed the angel told him there was a book deposited, written upon gold plates, giving an account of the former inhabitants of this continent and the source from whence they sprang. This is a quote of Joseph Smith, The History Book, Chapter 1, line 34. Smith said he was not allowed to retrieve the buried plates for another 4 years. Cool, but that's fine. Except there's no reason why you couldn't do that. In verse 54 of his testimony, he related to the day he was allowed to dig up the record came on September 22nd, 1827. Mormon historian Leonard Arrington notes that, quote, sometime after midnight in the early morning hours of September 22nd, Joseph and Emma drove to the hill, obtained the plates, and hid them in an old birch log about 3 miles from the Smith home. With neighboring ruffians. That's a word that needs to come back. Ruffians. Sorry, resuming. With neighboring ruffians seeking the plates, thinking they were of great monetary worth. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it was gold, but, whatever. All right. With neighboring ruffians seeking the plates, thinking they were of great monetary worth, Joseph changed the hiding place several times and managed to keep them from being discovered or stolen, end of quote. Quote taken from Mormonism, from its New York beginnings, Dialogue, Volume 13, Number 3, page 122. Eventually, Joseph Smith would bring the plates home to be translated. His mother, Lucy Mack Smith, remembered the day this way. Quote, the plates were secreted about 3 miles from home. Joseph, on coming to them, took them from their secret place and, wrapping them in his linen frock, placed them under his arm and started for home. Yeah, casually going home 3 miles with a 200-pound brick of gold under your arm. Resuming, quote, after proceeding a short distance, he thought it would be more safe to leave the road and go through the woods. Traveling some distance after he left the road, he came to a large windfall, and as he was jumping over a log, a man sprung up from behind it and gave him a heavy blow with a gun. Joseph turned around and knocked him down, then ran at the top of his speed. About half a mile further, he was attacked again in the same manner as before. He knocked this man down in like manner as the former, and ran on again. And before he reached his home, he was assaulted a third time. It's always in threes. In striking the last one, he dislocated his thumb, which, however, he did not notice until he came within sight of the house. He threw himself down in the corner of the fence in order to recover his breath. As soon as he was able, he arose and came to the house. Lai was still altogether speechless from fright and the fatigue of running. End quote. History of Joseph Smith by his mother, Lucy Smith. Paper page 107 through 108. An abbreviated version of Lucy Smith's account is found on pages 44 through 45 of the LDS Church Manual, Church History, and the Fullness of Times Student Manual, Religion 341 through 343. My man, running 3 miles with this 200-pound gold brick, fought off 3. I swear to you, 3 attackers who came at him not with their hands but with guns. And they sought to take from Joseph these holy tablets, the words from God himself of the history of this great land. And they sought to steal it from him for pure monetary gain. The savages. Luckily, Joseph, strong and mighty as he, winded, beaten, tired, still managed to fight off through the strength of our Lord. Fight off these attackers and make his way home, safely procuring this tablet, which is of utmost importance, of course. Their history is just phenomenal. All right, resuming. An interesting fact of history missing from the story above is that when Smith was a young boy, he went through an excruciating surgery on his leg that caused him to walk with a limp for the rest of his life. Makes you wonder how fast he can run. We are left to believe that Smith was either able to strike his attackers hard enough to prevent them from pursuing him, or he was able to escape from them with this physical handicap, all while carrying the plates. Sounds like malarkey to me. Smith stated, quote, "These records were engraven on plates which had the appearance of gold. Each plate was 6 inches wide and 8 inches long, and not quite so thick as common tin. They were filled with engravings in Egyptian characters. My man could read hieroglyphics before anyone else could read hieroglyphics. And bound together in a volume as the leaves of a book, with 3 rings running through the whole." Rings. Yeah. 400-year-old tablet, or God only knows how old tablet, was held together with rings. Yeah, that's logical. Lacking a little bit of creativity in this one. The volume was something near 6 inches in thickness, a part of which was sealed. End quote. From History of the Church. Either Chapter 4 or Book 4, line 537. I'm guessing it's Book 4, line 537, but honestly, I don't really care to find out. That's way too much information to dig through for a heretical religion I don't really care to know that much more about. Resuming. Paintings of Smith show him receiving the plates with outstretched arms or resting on his knee. Although these are just an artist's perception, these descriptions do cause us to ask, if they really existed, just how heavy were those plates given the size and description by Smith? Well, in his defense, he did say they only appeared to be gold. Resuming. Oh, here we go. Now they're going to break down what I mentioned earlier. Gold weighs 1,204 pounds per cubic foot. So, if we use the dimensions given by Smith, we can correctly conclude that the plates were 1/6 of a cubic foot. In other words, if the plates were made of gold, as the angel Moroni claimed them to be, they would have weighed 200 pounds. I think it comes out to like 204.7 or something like that. I could be misremembering. I haven't done the math in like a year, so memory recall may not be the best on that, but I'm pretty sure it's 204-ish pounds, maybe a little more. This becomes problematic since no one believes that it is physical. Screw it, we're doing this. I'm gonna open my calculator. All right. So we're doing 6 by 8 by 6, which is 288. A whopping 288. Write this down on paper. Lord knows I'm not going to remember this. 288 cubic inches. Now, they're saying it's 1,204 pounds per cubic foot. So 12 times 12 times 12 is 1,728 cubic inches. All right. So, pounds per cubic foot. All right. So, 1204 divided by 1728 equals points. Some absurdly long decimal. I'll probably just roll with to the 4th decimal point. So we're going to call it 0.6968 pounds per cubic inch. Now we're going to multiply that number. I'm not going to shrink it down. I'm going to keep the whole long one, which is like 12 decimal points, and multiply that by 288. Oh, my apologies. That comes out to 200.6667 202 pounds. So that's my bad. I had poor memory recall. Using, of course, the information provided on the Mormon website. All right, so they're correct. 200 pounds. Resuming. In response to this dilemma, proponents argue that the plates would have been considerably lighter due to, quote, airspace, unquote, between the uneven handmade plates. Right. Mormon apostle John Widstow, he lived from 1872 to 1952. It's a pretty long life. Good for him. Is one of many Mormons who did not believe that the plates were made of gold, as Moroni described. Heresy from this unbeliever. He concluded that the plates must have been made of a lighter alloy that was composed of primarily copper with some gold. He said, if the plates were made of 8-karat gold, which is gold frequently used in present-day jewelry. Yeah, cool assumption, but this thing, unless you're assuming this thing was made in present day, that's a very weird jump or logical conclusion to come to. It's like, well, we only work with 8-karat gold, so clearly this is also 8-karat gold, even though it is very, very old and not from even the same civilization as we are. Whatever. I'll give him his logical fallacy. All right. If the plates were made of 8-karat gold, which is gold frequently used in present-day jewelry, and allowing a 10% space between the leaves, the total weight of the plates would not be above 117 pounds, a weight easily carried by a man as strong as was Joseph Smith. Quote from John A. Widstow and Franklin S. Harris, Jr., from 7 Claims of the Book of Mormon, page 37. Man, that I don't think, it's so hard to even contemplate. It's like, man, 117 pounds is not an insignificant weight. And they're claiming this crippled man carried it under one arm, running, whatever speed that would be for a cripple, 3 whole miles while fighting off 3 separate attackers along the way. who had guns but didn't shoot him, but just hit him with them? God bless these people. Resuming. While this may seem plausible to some, this rebuttal comes tenuous given the soft nature of gold. Plates of gold stacked in the manner described by Smith would easily flatten out, thus displacing any arbitrary, quote, airspace suggested by Woodstow, at least towards the bottom of the stack. Woodstow's conclusion that the plates were 8-karat gold would mean that gold made up 33% of the metal included in the plates. Could a young man like Smith, quote, easily carry 117 pounds worth of plates? The answer is no, as I have personally witnessed on several occasions. Let me explain. On display at the Utah Lighthouse Ministry Bookstore, because remember, Mormons don't read the Bible, they read books from the Lighthouse Ministry, which the Mormons made and are constantly pumping out literature. So when they quote things to you, it's very rarely biblical, and more often than not, it's from the Lighthouse. Resuming. Located at 1358 Southwest Temple, Salt Lake City, across from the street from Smith's ballpark where the Salt Lake Bees play. Okay, that feels like unnecessary additional information. Is a set of lead plates that are the same dimensions Joseph Smith gave for his plates, 6 inches wide, 8 inches long, and 6 inches deep. Why lead? Why would the metal inside that's covered in gold be lead? If it's that old, you'd think it'd be either copper or bronze. More likely bronze. Which is heavier? Weight by volume of lead, copper, and bronze. Here we go. Per cubic foot. This ought to be fun. All right. We have. Oh, maybe it was iron. We could say iron, lead, copper, or bronze. I'm not sure. Oh, bronze is here. Great. Great. Brass. Brass? Which is older, brass or bronze? Which is the older metallurgic metal? Bronze or brass? Okay, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so order of oldest to newest is oldest use metal is copper, which is easy to understand. It's a very, very workable metal. That was then followed by bronze, which was then followed by brass. Okay. So it could have been any one of those three, really, of these four: lead, bronze, brass, and iron. We'll toss iron in there. So brass. We'll work backwards. Brass is per cubic foot 535.68 pounds. Bronze is 541 pounds, so approximately the same. Let's see. We'll go raw iron. Raw iron is 491 pounds, so lighter than those two. And copper is 559, the heaviest of the three. So if we want to give them the benefit of the doubt, this thing is made of brass on the inside. Sure. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Resuming. Though lead is lighter than gold, these plates weight 118 pounds, or 1 pound more than the weight suggested by Woodstow. As one who has for years volunteered at this bookstore, I have seen numerous visitors attempt to lift these plates. More often than not, I've been asked, are they bolted down? Yeah, because, like I said, 117, 118 pounds is not insignificant. Really not an insignificant. That's heavy for the average person. All right. Resuming. Reed Putnam, a Mormon metallurgist cited by Mormon apologists, apparently realized that Widstow's arbitrary 10% air gap was not enough. These people. In bold. Discarding Widstow's estimate, Putnam suggested that there must have been a 50% air gap between the plates. Wow! Amazing! It's so unbelievably unbelievable that these stupid tablets, which, they don't even have, they lost them. Like, wow, that's convenient. They freaking lost them. These stupid plates. Like, well, we've learned from our stories that this makes zero sense whatsoever. So we've decided it is now 50% less volume. Are you kidding me? All right, let's do that then. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. What'd they say? They want it to be 33% gold. 33% gold of, what's not airspace. Let's see, what'd we go with? Which one was the lightest? Brass or lead or iron? 491, 535, what's lead? Lead's heavy as hell, man. 708 pounds per cubic foot, hell no. All right, 535, 541, 559, 491.09. 491.09 for iron. We're going to assume iron is the metal because that is the lightest metal. They said 33% of the non-airspace was gold and the other 67%, forgive my poor math, would have been the iron. They claim lead. I think that's stupid. We'll say it's iron. So, going back to our original number, pulling back open the calculator, it has a total volume of 288 cubic inches. Divide that by 2 because now 50% of it is airspace somehow, which gives us a total of 144 cubic inches, of which 33% is gold. So 144 times 0.33 gives us 47.52 cubic inches is gold. Subtract from that number 144, which gives us 96.48. 9648 will be iron. Now, I have golds. I need to figure out irons now. A cubic foot is, okay, so 491.09 divided by 1728 gives us a whopping 2842. 0.2842 pounds per cubic inch for iron. Good stuff. All right. So if we take that number and multiply it by 96.48, gives us 27.4192 pounds. 274192 pounds. And for the gold, it's 0.6968 approximately pounds per cubic inch times 47.52 gives us a whopping 33.1119 pounds. 33.1119. All right, so 33.1119 add with 27.4192 gives us a whopping, we'll just make this 2 decimals to make it easy, 60.53 pounds is the weight of the Book of Mormon now. They managed to, just through nonsense, bullcrap, essentially 140 pounds off this book. No, actual, like just over 140 pounds. These people. All right. All right, let's resume. Perhaps Putnam and those who adhere to this theory have failed to realize how this assumption presents another serious dilemma. Joseph Smith said he only translated the top 2 inches of the plates because the bottom 4 inches were sealed. Sealed with what? Divine magic? The top 2 inches of plates that Smith allegedly translated later became the Book of Mormon. Oh, the Book of Mormon is only 1/3 of what it ought to be. Yeah, nothing like giving yourself room to add as necessary. Nice. Placing a 50% air gap between the plates means that the 2 inches worth of plates is now reduced to only 1 inch. Yay. Are we really to believe that 1 inch worth of metal plates inscribed by hand gave us enough text for a book that is over 500 pages in length? Well, of course. I mean, we're translating hieroglyphics. And don't you know a picture's worth 1,000 words? So, by that definition, let's assume, let's do some more math, shall we? Let's give them all the more reason to just bullcrap this. All right. 6 by 8. Let's make up a random number. Okay, 6 times 8. We got 48 square inches to work with. On each face of the page, we're going to assume each face of the page, like each side of the tablet, I'm not really sure. They keep bouncing between pages and slabs. I'm pretty sure it's slabs and not actually pages. I don't really understand what they're going for. Either way, each page, we'll go with that, is 48 square inches. Hieroglyphics need a semi-large space. So let's say one hieroglyphic with appropriate spacing to adjacent and nearby hieroglyphics takes up 1 square inch. Just to play it safe. So that'll give us 48 hieroglyphs per side. So 48 times 2 gives us a whopping 96 hieroglyphs per page. All right. How many pages do we want to give them? Let's give them, well, they were tablets, right? That's what they're claiming. Where's the picture? They have a picture. I'm pretty sure I saw a picture. Fine. I'll find the picture. Let's find the picture, shall we? Book of Mormon replica. Lead replica. I want to see the very specific one. Show. Okay. Okay. So it seems to be a multitude of thick pages. Here we go. Here we go. That looks to be like 40 tablets. Wow, they fit a lot onto that. That is not hieroglyphics. That looks like ancient Hebrew. Why? Why is that? Whatever. All right. So they have 40 pages, of which, what'd they say? They only got through like the first third? They only got through the first third? See, it was 6 inches. Yeah, okay, so they only got through the first third. Only got through the first third of 40 pages. I'll give them 40 just to make it easy on me. So we'll give him a charitable amount. Let's say he got 16 pages. at... All right, so he's got 16 pages at 96 hieroglyphs per page. Gives us 1,536 glyphs. And if we're going to just go with it and just say a picture's worth 1,000 words and a hieroglyph is an individual picture, we could argue that each glyph is worth 1,000 words. So now we're at 1.5 million words in those very short pages. Let's see. What is the average word count on a 6-inch by 8-inch sheet of paper? All right, so standard is double spaced, so 250 words. All right, so let's take our over 1 million number and divide it by 250, and we get 6,144. Divide that by 2, and you get 3,072 total pages. I'd say that the fact that they are only at 500 pages in length for the text of only the first 2 inches, I'd say we're getting off good. I mean, my word, man, they could have had 3,000. All right. I'm sorry. I keep putting this off. I keep finding random things to look up to just find logical fallacies. It's phenomenal. Resuming. Still, Putnam insists that, quote, the plates were not so heavy that a man could not carry them, end quote. In a September 1966 article in the Improvement Era magazine, he states, quote, we are not led to believe that the weight of the plates was a great hindrance, end quote. From page 789. Yeah, of course it's not a great hindrance. Because he had to run 3 miles with it and fight off 3 people who had guns and didn't shoot him for some reason. Resuming. However, in drawing such a conclusion, Putnam and many modern Mormon apologists reject the notion that the plates were made of pure gold, let alone 24 karat. Putnam surmises that the plates were probably composed of a copper-gold Central American alloy called tumbaga. What? Though there is no standard for the copper-gold ratio in tumbaga, convenient, Mormon apologists naturally insist on a ratio that allows for the plates to be the lightest, presumably 8 karat gold and copper. If copper's not even the lightest one. Okay. Presumably 8 karat gold and copper. In other words, the plates would have been primarily composed of 66% copper and only 33% gold. By insisting that the plates had an air gap of 50%, Putnam concludes that the 8 karat tumbaga plates could have weighed as little as 53 pounds. And while that is a much more manageable weight than 200 pounds, that is... Isn't that... All right. We just gotta look up so many things for this. What is the weight of a sewer manhole lid? Let's see. Most cast iron manhole covers weigh in the neighborhood of 200 pounds. My God, this man essentially was running around. And this isn't like the modern ones. Like, this is the thick old boys. These have like 2-inch deep rims, and they've got a star shape that billows out as structural support on the bottom side of them, which you can't see. Which are... Wow. I always thought they were only like 60 pounds. I think the modern ones are probably that, but they're not cast iron. I'm pretty sure those are some sort of steel. Which would explain why they're lighter, but thinner and whatever. I'm pretty sure they're closer to 60 to 80 pounds. So basically, this man was running around with them, with essentially the equivalent of a modern manhole lid. My God. I mean, throwing them around isn't that hard, but to say it's not an inconvenient weight, like, I think the most inconvenient part of it is more or less the size of it, given that it's essentially 24 inches in diameter. I would say its inconvenience is partially the weight and more the size of it, but like if you had essentially a manhole lid in essentially a brick, like 2 bricks stacked on top of each other. The Book of Mormon is essentially 4 bricks. So 4 bricks in a nice little stack, one on top of the others, side by side, so a set of 2. But the weight, like, sure, the size is now no longer a problem, but that weight's not exactly convenient regardless. Like, I feel like you're reaching for this, man. Come on. In other words, it'd be like carrying a sack of ready-mixed concrete. Yeah, that's like, or like a bag of softener salt. Like, yeah, but now that you have that image in your head, okay, you're carrying 4 bricks that weigh as much as a bag of softener salt. Now run 3 miles and fight off 3 people with that while carrying it under your arm, and you have a limp. Fallacy after fallacy. Sorry. Resuming. Mormon anthropologist John L. Sorensen agreed that Putnam's explanation helps solve the weight problem. No joke. In his book, An Ancient American Setting for the Book of Mormon, he wrote, quote, R.H. Putnam has argued persuasively that the Book of Mormon plates that were in Joseph Smith's hands were of Tumbaga. Had they been unalloyed gold, they would have been too heavy for a single person to carry. I would disagree with that, but it'd be too heavy for a person with a limp to run 3 miles and fight off 3 people with. Whatever. Resuming. Mormon apologists feel that plates made of a stronger alloy makes more sense since plates of pure gold would be too soft and not practical. I mean, think about it. Gold is so unbelievably malleable when it's 24 karat that, like, he had to undig it. That means they were buried under pressure. How did that thing not get squished and just completely unlegible mess? So, yeah, it's a fair assumption that it's not 24 karat gold for the whole thing, because there was no way that could have survived. It could have survived in terms of not decaying or breaking down, but it doesn't make sense for, like, can you imagine him accidentally just with his shovel digging for this thing and just going bink, just dead square center of it, just accidentally chopping through 2.5 inches in the dead center of this tablet, just screwing up the whole book. So they make a fair point that it couldn't have been full gold, but it could have been, you know, I guess, coated in gold. It would have been stamped in the Tumbaga and then coated in gold, which makes no sense. But whatever, I'll give it to him. Resuming. However, if that is really so, why does Mosiah chapter 8, verse 9 in the Book of Mormon specifically Mormons... Hey, guys, great job on this one. The Book of Mormon specifically mention. Editors, people, editors. However, if that is really so, why does Mosiah chapter 8 verse 9 in the Book of Mormon specifically mention 24 jaredite plates that were, quote, filled with engravings and they are of pure gold, end quote? This argument also fails to take into account a photograph in earlier editions of the Book of Mormon that showed a, quote, gold tablet found in Persia in 1961 dating back to the time of Darius II, the 4th century BC, covered in cuneiform engravings, end quote. The caption went on to say, quote, this tablet is about the size of the gold plates of the Book of Mormon, end quote. In his book titled An Approach to the Book of Mormon, Dr. Hugh Nibley also mentioned this parallel as evidence that Smith had plates of gold. If the plates deposited by Moroni, the angel, were really an alloy made primarily of copper, why go to such lengths?
because he lied.
I mean, that's an option, right?
He's lying?
Resuming. It appears that the Tumbaga theory is not always the generally accepted conclusion. For example, the May 15th, 1999 issue of the LDS Church News ran an article titled Hands-on Opportunity. Speaking of Joseph Smith, the fourth paragraph read, quote, "He had also been instructed by an angel, Moroni, who had met with him each year for 4 years. On the last visit, he was entrusted with plates of solid gold, which he had been translating by the power of the Spirit.
The Lord doth say to me, these hieroglyphics, they tell me, your wife should lay with me, and you should give me all of your money.
By the power of the Spirit." It should be noted that the electronic version of this article has been revised and now reads that Joseph Smith was, quote, entrusted with gold plates. Don't you just love being able to just revise whatever's inconvenient? Resuming. Question. Supernatural strength? A common response by faithful Latter-day Saints is that God gave Joseph Smith supernatural strengths to carry the plates. God said to Joseph, "Go upon this hill and dig up my lost plates of the ancient history of the peoples of America. And once you have found these plates, I shall lend you the strength of Samson. And you shall carry these plates back to your house. I shall remove your limp. It shall weigh not as but the air you run through. For it is upon you, my faithful apostle, to carry on my faithful word." Alright. Resuming. If that really is the case, why would Mormon apostle John Woodstow, Reed Putnam, and other Mormon apologists who accept their theories gone to great lengths to reconstruct the story in such a way as to get the weight of the plates down to what they feel is a manageable level? Because logically it makes no sense. You have to logic it somehow. If God really intervened, why reinvent the tale? Guess. Why not believe Smith could have supernaturally carried 200 pounds under his arm and be done with it? Better yet, if we're gonna give Smith Samson-like strength and just apparently remove his limp, why not just add to the fact that these solid gold plates, I mean, they're reinforced by the will of God, which is why they haven't been smushed and they're still legible and they have no problems despite the fact that he might have dropped it at one point and clearly would have... Oh, for goodness sake. Sorry. Resuming. The fact is, no Mormon apologist or LDS leader argues that God gave Smith supernatural strength to carry the plates, and Smith certainly never gave God any glory for such an alleged miracle. That's inconvenient. Keep this in mind the next time you stop at your favorite hardware establishment. When you enter the store, pick up a bag of cement, tuck it under your arm, and continue with your shopping. Assuming no sales clerk is going to jump you as you shop, imagine yourself carrying the weight for a distance of 3 miles, according to Smith's mother, at times running at the top of your speed to escape 3 separate attackers. For added effect, you could jump over a display or two as you attempt to replicate the story. Right, because he had to jump fences and logs and stuff. You will soon realize that Smith's tale was nothing but a fabrication. Alright, let's go with this. Related quotes. Quote, "It may be well to state that the people of God in ancient days, according to the accounts of men, kept their sacred records on plates of gold, and those of less consequences on plates of brass, copper, wood, etc. See John's Biblical Archaeology. Josephus and others. These plates were generally made from the 16th to the 32nd part of an inch of metal, and something like 6 by 8 inches square. He fastened them to the back with 3 rings. Did he screw up pages trying to put these rings in, through which a rod was put to carry them or hang them? The word of the Lord, the history of the doings of the children of God, and their genealogy was engraved in a nice workmanlike manner upon them in Hebrew, Reformed Egyptian, etc. Such, that's why the replica has ancient Hebrew on it. Convenient. Such was the condition of the plates from which came the Book of Mormon, as may be seen by an allusion in the Book of Ether. Allusion in the Book of Ether. All that was on them was not translated. Wherefore, as they are sacred, when the Book of Mormon was translated from them, they were again hid up to the Lord, to come forth again in his own due time. My man didn't lose it. God took back his book. The Lord looked upon Joseph Smith, and he said unto him, You have translated enough, my son. You have done my good work, and as such I have deemed unto me that I shall take back my word until it is due again unto my people, and we shall once again elaborate on the lost epistles of the New Testament. Holy crap. All right, that is from the Book of Mormon, Evening and Morning Star, Volume 1, June 1832 through May 1833, and Volume 1, December 1832, number 7, page 58 through 59. Wow. Wow, this took way longer. This isn't even like a super in-depth view into Mormonism. I mean, the number of those 6 people that formed the initial founding of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, every single one of them, by their death, denounced Mormonism. Convenient. Not. Anyways, so... All right, so back to the more fun part of this. Mormons think Bigfoot is Cain. All right, here we go. There may be more to fear from Bigfoot than the fact that he's big and hairy. Some say that the legendary North American woodland ape is Cain. Though there's no way to prove or disprove this particular tale, knowing the source of the legend can shed some light on why this conclusion has been made. Abraham Smoot recorded the following after early church apostle David W. Patton described an encounter he had with Cain in 1835. Cain still walks the earth according to Mormons. Lovely. Quote, As I was riding along the road on my mule, I suddenly noticed a very strange person walking beside me. His head was about even with my shoulders as I sat in my saddle. He wore no clothing but was covered with hair. His skin was very dark. I asked him where he dwelt, and he replied that he had no home, that he was a wanderer in the earth and traveled to and fro. He said he was a very miserable creature, and his mission was to destroy the souls of men. But was, polite enough to not screw with this guy? All right. This entry was included in Spencer W. Kimball's The Miracle of Forgiveness, which was originally published in 1969. In 1980, sightings of the legendary Bigfoot were reported in South Weber, Utah. Members made connection with these sightings to Patton's story of Cain, effectively beginning the tale. Reeve believes Mormons use this story to connect an unexplainable event with proof that the saints are doing a good job. Quote, When Satan sends Cain against Mormons, they think, we must be on the right path, or Satan wouldn't bother sending his most evil hordes against us, end quote. Oh, can you imagine the beauty of a reality TV series of Mormons hunting Bigfoot because they seek out Cain. Why wait for the devil to bring his hordes and his evil and his wickedry to your doorstep when you can bring the love and the power of God to his? Oh, that's such a phenomenal crackpot idea. I like it. I feel like you could write a phenomenal fiction story where Cain wanders the earth, growing ever hairier. Like, he's larger because, you know, he was the first human born. Because, you know, he killed the second human born. So Cain, the first human, isn't quite the same as what we are because, you know, special evolution is a thing. And so we're fairly different nowadays from what we were 1,000 years ago. Imagine however untold thousands of years ago Cain is from. Like, I don't know, maybe Cain's Bigfoot. Maybe all those Bigfoot sightings everyone sees, it's not a small group of ancient apes that are wandering the western half of America. No, it's not a colony or smattering of colonies of ancient apes. No, it's a singular ape or person, and it's Cain, and he's come to make your life hell. Oh, what a lovely story. All right. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see all you friends next time in the next one. And as always, have fun. Stay safe. Don't talk to bears.